What is up, everybody? I'm George Mossey. I'm here with my co-host, David Baxter. So 90 Day Fiance, Season 9, we're 15 episodes in. So there's 7 couples featured. So far, we have seen 1 couple get married. So 1 down, 6 to go. And I'm going to start there. I'm going to jump in with Carla and Guillermo. So we knew that they had 3 weeks to plan a medium size, because we know Guillermo wanted this massive wedding, even though he doesn't really know anyone in the United States. And we saw her plan a medium-sized wedding, and it wasn't terrible. I mean, it was at a bar, which is interesting, but most people want an open bar at a wedding, so I felt like it was fitting, right?
Yeah, the venue didn't seem too bad. I mean, I've seen worse. I've watched Extreme Cheapskates.
Oh my God, I watched that too, yeah.
Yeah, and there were some good ideas on that show too. So like, at least it wasn't at a chiropractor's office.
Exactly. I mean, the venue was nice, and I was impressed with what she was able to do in such a short amount of time. And we watched Guillermo's family watch from Zoom, and he actually had some flowers there for his brother, Jose Joaquin. It was a really good moment, a nice moment. And it really made me think about the sacrifice that he's made to be with Carr, because a lot of people are like, oh, well, he's living in America. He has this great life, and he's given this opportunity, but seeing him there getting ready all by himself really put the sacrifice into understanding. It made you realize, like, this guy is here all alone with no one there to even help him get dressed. So it really made that a perspective for me.
And I think it was a really sweet, I don't know, this is the final scene we're going to see of them, but it was a really sweet moment for a couple that the fans had been kind of divided on. And so we got to see that nice, like they walked down the aisle, they had a beautiful wedding, they had the memorial, they had everything. She looked wonderful.
Yeah, I owe people money. I never thought they were going to make it down the aisle. Kara's so controlling, right? We watched her go from you can't have a laptop to you can't have this venue to taking him to venues just to prove that they couldn't afford it. So watching them make it this far, this is the last scene we saw of them. This was a beautiful moment, and I have my fingers crossed that everything goes well and they stay married. And Chris wasn't there. Her ex-boyfriend Chris wasn't at the wedding, and I think that was a good thing.
I could see them on Pillow Talk, and if they do that, I think they'll get like the David and Annie treatment.
I feel like David started out with people disliking him, and then on Pillow Talk, and then with his spinoff show, people are really taking a liking to him. And I feel like you said, that would help in with Cara as well.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Kobe and temperature, right? So the men from Cameroon have a male ego. I don't know how to best explain it, but you basically are in charge of your household, and women submit to you, and they almost they belong to you as property, and they don't argue with you, and you get to make the decisions in the family. So Kobe is not so much a part of that culture. As we saw with him and Emily, he takes the backseat and lets Emily take control. But when surrounded by someone from his culture, from Cameroon, he is questioning whether or not he is taking control in his life. And we are watching him kind of battle whether or not he wants to move to Columbus, Ohio from Salinas, Kansas. And I tweeted last night, I was like, I don't really feel like moving from one place to the other, with these 2 places being the places of option, will make a difference. Yes, Salinas has a very low African-American community, but I know for a fact there are African Americans in Kansas. So you don't necessarily have to move from one state to another to find African community. And I do feel like it's probably a good thing that he wants to see people that look like him. But at the same time, she's pregnant. They're going through a lot. He can't work yet. And he's already looking at apartments on his iPad without having a conversation with his pregnant wife.
Right. I'm not sure, because Emily's been so disliked this season. It's it's kind of hard to separate a lot of those things out. I can see where he's coming from, and I can also see, like, okay, I'm going to have 2 children that are biracial, and they're living in this like kind of nothing, and I want to show them access to their culture and to who I am and to whatever. All of that goes with it. But at the same time, like, you're right, he doesn't have a job. He can't get a job yet. I'm pretty sure she doesn't want to move because of her family is helping to support them, which goes into some things, but also is valid at this point in time.
having a safety net is so important, especially when you have two young children and a soon-to-be husband who's not even legally able to work. Because, you know, there are women out there who have husbands that just won't work or boyfriends that just won't work. He wants to work. He just can't legally do that. So I think having a safety net is important. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, Emily's just controlling and she doesn't want him to do anything. But Emily's right here. You know, in this point in their lives, it is best to be as close to family as possible because her family has made it clear that no matter what's going on with her and Kobe, they are willing to help them and make sure that they're not struggling. And moving so far away from that help it's going to be difficult for everyone because Emily has a job as a nanny. You know, you can't just move to Columbus and be a nanny. People don't know you. People won't trust you, you know, with your kids. So it's not like she could just move to Ohio and become a nanny again. That takes time, trust, getting to know people, and building a reputation. So of all the things I've said on this podcast, I'm with Emily on this issue.
I think if he can have a bit more of a plan for this, like even a 5-year plan of, hey, I'd like to eventually move to a place where there is that, but first let me get a job, let me kind of see, we'll save up money. We'll not have any more kids because that's going to drain our resources even further.
Yes.
And that's what her parents are asking of him too. So
yeah, they want him to have a plan. They want him to have something lined up to where they can finally be on their own and not need their help. I think that's what every parent wants, especially for, you know, Emily. Emily is a grown-up, you know, she's not just a teenager or a 22-year-old. Emily's a grown-up, and they're ready for them to take a stand and say, look, we're taking control of our lives, and moving away at a time where you're about to have 2 tiny children is never taking control. So I want to talk about Shaida and Bilal. So Shaida has come to the conclusion that fighting with Bilal and being aggressive and argumentative is not going to get her anywhere. And she got here by having a conversation with Bilal's mother. And she taught her that it's better to let the man lead and lead from behind, meaning you can influence his decisions, but let it be his decision. And I don't know where I stand on that because I feel like that way of thinking is kind of how we got to this wage gap and how we've gotten to where women aren't allowed to make decisions for their bodies. I think women should be able to have an opinion that is equal to any other person in that relationship or in that situation. But this advice worked for Shaida because she gave in. She told Bilal that she was going to sign the prenup, and he in turn said, I am willing to put in the things that you've asked for in this prenup regarding your yoga business, it belonging to you. And he even agreed to say that he is going to give her children before the age of 40. Now, I don't believe him, but he agreed to it. And a lot of people online was like, well, maybe he agreed to it because he's already had a vasectomy, so it's not that big of a deal and she'll never know. Because I just don't trust Bilal, right?
Yeah, it was a look on his face, and he said, like, well, you don't know what happens. Like, he was very cagey about it. I also feel that...
convincing. Yeah, it wasn't convincing at all. He just said, okay. Or actually, she said, it can't be, I guess so. She's like, but 10 days before our wedding, it has to be yes or no.
Yeah. And I know people who haven't had kids and they've tried really hard, and that is a very realistic thing. And there could be a lot of things that we don't know about. But if he's gotten himself snipped and hasn't said anything, because doesn't that happen with somebody else on the show? I think maybe it was Big Ed.
It did happen. It definitely needs to be discussed, and she needs a definite answer. And with 10 days out from the wedding, I just feel he's being deceitful. He wanted to get his way. He wanted her to sign the prenup, and he's gotten that. And now at this point, because the way he said, okay, well, I'm going to do whatever she asked now because she compromised with me. And that's very questionable because, you know, a month ago, he said that there was no way that he was interested in having any more kids. So now that he's saying, oh, I'm just going to compromise and give her what she wants, it's very skeptical. And it makes me wonder if he's just telling her what she wants to hear, because giving someone a child, like you said, there's a lot of medical science, and, you know, it's not just the act of making a child. You have to be able to medically do that, and your body has to agree. So maybe he definitely might know something that she doesn't. All right, guys, that's it for part 1. We're going to come back with part 2, and we are going to talk about Patrick and Thais, who seem to have infinite family. Every time we go on, Patrick is visiting another family member, and they're just as animated as the last. And we're going to talk about even Muhammad. Muhammad has had a conversation with his mother that has changed his entire outlook on life. So we're going to talk about that as well. Thanks for joining us, guys. I'm George Mossey. This is my co-host, David Baxter. Make sure you're live tweeting with us every Sunday night, and we'll talk to you all really soon.